The stars were quiet. In a forgotten part of space, far from any known world, a planet floated like a ghost. It had no sunlight. Its surface was frozen, covered in thick ice and black rock. There was no sound, no life, and no reason for anyone to visit. But deep under that dead planet, a small machine blinked with a soft blue light. It had been sending the same message again and again for thousands of years. The signal was weak. Almost no one could hear it now. Most ships passed by. Without even noticing, no one cared, no one remembered. Until one day a human deep space probe caught it. The signal was strange. It was not in any known language, but it repeated every hour with the same pattern. The computers on the probe marked it as non-natural and sent a report back to Earth. That report passed through dozens of hands, ignored by most. But one woman noticed something no one else did. Captain Riva sat in her office aboard the exploration ship Starlight Hope. She was in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a quiet voice. She had led missions to many unknown parts of the galaxy. She had found new minerals, strange creatures, and even lost ruins. But nothing made her heart beat faster than that strange signal. She read the report again. The signal had been repeating for over 20,000 years. Riva leaned back and thought, why would something send a message for so long, unless it wanted someone to find it? She called her first officer, Tolan, into the room. He was tall, calm, and careful with his words. Look at this, she said, pointing at the signal data. Tell me that doesn't feel alive. Tolan studied the screen and frowned. It's old, real old. Could be a broken satellite. Could be a distress call. Riva nodded. What if it is? What if someone needed help 20,000 years ago and no one ever came? Tolan gave her a look. Riva, we're supposed to survey the Caltrex system next week. This is a cold, dead rock. Command won't approve a detour. She didn't answer right away. Then she said, we're going. The ship changed course, quietly. Riva sent a delayed message back to command, knowing they wouldn't like it. But she couldn't ignore the feeling in her chest. This signal was important. She didn't know why. But something deep inside her said it mattered. 3 days later, the Starlight Hope dropped out of hyperspace. Before them was the dead planet. No name, no light, no life. Just black stone and a single icy moon spinning slowly in the dark. The signal was still coming, just as weak and steady as before. Riva stood on the bridge as the crew scanned the planet. There's a power source, said one technician. Deep, underground, still active. Barely. Tolan looked surprised. After 20,000 years, the crew launched a small drone into the atmosphere. It flew over broken mountains and old craters. Then it found a crack in the surface. The crack led into a tunnel. At the end of that tunnel, hidden under miles of rock, was a sealed door. The signal came from behind it. Riva watched the drone footage and made her choice. Prepare the landing team. They touched down hours later. The ground crunched under their boots. It was colder than Antarctica, darker than a cave. The wind howled like a whisper from the dead. Riva, Tolan, and 4 others moved toward the tunnel. Their suits kept them warm and let them breathe. But the air felt heavy anyway. Inside the tunnel, the light from their helmets bounced off walls covered in frost. Strange writing was carved into the stone, curved symbols they didn't recognize. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to press against their skin. At last, they reached the door. It was made of metal none of them had seen before. Smooth, silver, untouched by time. In the center was a glowing blue symbol. The same shape that repeated in the signal. Suddenly, the symbol pulsed. The team froze. Riva stepped closer. The symbol pulsed again. Then, the door opened. A warm wind rushed out, strange after the freezing cold outside. The room inside was large and round, with high walls and soft lights glowing like stars above them. In the center stood a tall glass chamber filled with golden mist, and inside that chamber floated something. It was a being unlike any they had seen, tall and thin, with skin like polished stone. 4 arms, no mouth, but glowing eyes that didn't move. Tubes and wires connected the body to machines around the chamber. It looked like a statue until its eyes blinked. The human stepped back. No one spoke. Then the being raised one hand slowly and pressed it against the glass. Riva stepped forward, heartbeat fast. "Can it hear us?" One of the scientists checked her tablet. "I think it's aware. It's alive. Barely." The being's hand glowed faintly against the glass. Then, through speakers on their suits, a soft voice played in their ears. Not a voice, really. More like a feeling turned into sound. It said, "You heard me." The team stood in stunned silence. Riva's voice was steady. "Yes, we heard you." The being did not move. No one answered. Time passed. Light faded. But the signal continued. Tolan stepped closer. "What are you?" The answer came slowly. "We were the Virellans, builders, dreamers, makers of light. But the stars turned cold. Others left us. Some hunted us. We hid and waited." Riva asked, "Why did they hunt you?" The voice paused. "Fear. We knew too much. We grew too fast. They said we would rise above them, so they made us fall." The machines around the chamber hummed louder. A warning light blinked red. "They are failing," the voice said. "Soon I will return to sleep and never wake." Riva turned to the team. "Can we fix it?" The engineer checked her tools. "Maybe. The systems are old, but still similar to fusion tech. We'd need to link power from our ship." Riva gave the order. "Do it. Now." As they worked, the voice spoke again. "You are not like them," it said. "You heard, and you came." Riva nodded. "That's what humans do. When someone calls for help, we answer." The voice grew softer. "I have seen many rise and fall, but none came back. Until you." Outside, the winds blew harder. The planet groaned beneath them as if waking from a long dream. Inside, sparks flew as the team connected a cable from their portable power cell to the ancient machines. The lights dimmed, then flared bright. The golden mist swirled inside the chamber. The being's eyes glowed brighter. Slowly, its body moved more freely. The tubes detached. The glass cracked. The team stepped back. With a hiss, the chamber opened. The being fell forward. Riva caught it. It was warm, and then, for the first time in 20,000 years, the signal stopped. The silence was heavy. The being looked at Riva, eyes glowing softly. It raised one hand and touched her helmet gently. "You are the first." Riva helped it stand. "You won't be the last." But above them, unseen in the darkness, something moved. Far beyond the planet, in the shadow of a distant moon, a ship watched. Its captain, from a race called the Dravari, narrowed his eyes. "They found it," he said. "We must stop them before it begins again." The ship turned silent and deadly and disappeared into the black. Back on the planet, Riva looked up at the stars. She didn't know it yet, but the moment they answered that signal, everything changed. For her, for humanity, and for the galaxy. The moment the being stepped out of the chamber, a strange calm spread through the underground room. It did not fall. It did not stumble. It stood tall, eyes glowing with soft light. Its skin shimmered faintly, like stone touched by starlight. The humans stayed quiet, watching closely, unsure of what it might do. Riva gently stepped forward. Her voice was careful, warm. "Can you walk?" The being turned its head slowly, then nodded once. Its movements were graceful, as if it remembered how to move even after so long. It looked around the chamber, then at the humans. "I remember this place," it said, its voice echoing in their ears through their suits. "But it feels old. Time has changed it." One of the engineers whispered, "It's a miracle. It shouldn't be possible for anything to survive that long." Tolan said softly, "Yet here it is, still breathing." The being tilted its head. You call yourselves humans? Riva nodded. Yes. We came from a planet called Earth. We heard your signal. You were the only ones who did, it replied, almost like a thought passing through a dream. Others once heard, but turned away. Riva asked, What happened to your people? The being looked at the cracked glass chamber it had slept in for thousands of years. We were many. Once we built cities in the sky. We sang to the stars. But fear grew in the hearts of others. They thought we would rise too far, become too much. So they left us alone. One by one, they disappeared. And then, silence. It stepped forward slowly, as if testing its legs after centuries of stillness. When the last sun dimmed, we went below. I was chosen to remain, to remember. But no one returned. Not even my own. There was a silence among the humans. Then Riva spoke. We don't know what you've been through, but you're not alone anymore. The being looked at her, and for the first time something soft passed through its glowing eyes. A kind of peace. But in orbit, hidden behind the planet's moon, something stirred. The Dravari ship sat in silence, tracking every move. Inside, its captain watched Riva's team on the screen. His fingers tapped on the console, his face unreadable. Another officer stood beside him. They've reactivated it, the officer said. They've made contact. The captain didn't blink. Then it begins again. We cannot allow that. A small probe launched from the dark ship and flew silently toward the planet hidden from sensors. It carried no weapons, only eyes and the ability to listen. Back underground, Riva's team set up a temporary base inside the chamber. Small lights now lined the walls. Devices hummed gently as they monitored the air, the energy, and the being's condition. Riva and the being sat near the chamber, sharing soft words. What do we call you? She asked. The being paused. My name was forgotten long ago, but you may call me Arakan. Arakan, she repeated. We'd like to help. If others from your race survived, we could find them. Arakan closed its eyes. I would, like that. But I fear I am the last. The moment hung heavy in the cold air. One of the scientists interrupted gently. Captain, our systems are picking up strange static. Something external. Riva stood. From the surface? No, from above. Something just entered low orbit. Riva's eyes narrowed. A ship? Could be. But it's quiet. No ID signal. Nothing open. Tolan stepped beside her. Someone else is watching. Riva didn't like how that sounded. Keep the signal scrambled. No transmissions out, unless I say so. Arakan looked toward the roof of the chamber. They've returned. Riva turned to him. Who? The ones who feared us. The ones who walked away when we asked for peace. They don't want us back. They don't want the past to rise again. Riva said, but you did nothing wrong. Fear doesn't need reason, Arakan answered. Only excuse. Riva felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Then we'll protect you. Whatever comes, we won't turn away. Above the planet, the probe continued to watch. It sent back every image, every word. The captain of the Dravari ship received the updates with a silent frown. They mean to restore him, he said. They don't understand what they awaken. Another officer asked, should we interfere? Not yet, the captain replied. Let them believe they are alone. Let them dig deeper. Meanwhile, back underground, Riva and her crew helped Arakan walk through the ancient tunnels. With each step, lights returned to life. Old machines flickered, systems activated one by one, and memory crystals glowed in soft blue light. Arakan explained, this was once a city, not of stone or steel, but of thought and energy. We lived in harmony with the world around us. Our minds joined through the air. We shared dreams. Riva could hardly believe it. And all of it is still here? Pieces, Arakan said, whispers of what was. They entered a round chamber where the walls were covered in symbols. Arakan placed a hand on the stone, and light spread like ripples across water. Images floated into the air, visions of tall beings walking through shining towers, floating bridges, glowing trees. Tolan whispered, "It's beautiful." Then the light shifted. The images changed, the towers crumbled, the skies darkened, shadows moved across the land. Ships left, and then silence. Hurricane lowered his hand. The images vanished. "This is what they feared," he said softly, "that we would grow beyond them, not through power, but through unity. They didn't understand, so they left us to fade." Riva placed a hand on his shoulder. "But now, the silence is broken." He looked at her, hope flickering behind ancient eyes. "If that is true, then perhaps something can begin again." But far above, the Dravari ship began to move. Its engines hummed in the dark. Quiet, hidden, watching, and waiting. The air in the ancient tunnels had changed. It wasn't just the lights that were coming back. It was something else. Something deeper. Hurricane paused in the middle of a long hallway and placed his hand on the stone once more. This time, no glowing image appeared. Instead, the wall opened slowly, revealing a path filled with soft blue mist and gentle humming sounds. Riva stepped closer, her voice calm, but curious. "Where does it go?" Hurricane didn't answer right away. His eyes seemed far away, like he was remembering something from long ago. Then, slowly, he turned toward her. "It leads to the heart," he said softly. "The center of our knowledge. Our memory. Our last light." The humans exchanged looks. Tolan whispered, "Should we follow?" Riva gave a nod. "We didn't come this far to turn back." They stepped into the mist, walking slowly as the sound of humming grew louder. The walls were smooth and warm, lit by lines of glowing energy that followed them like gentle streams. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to hum with a strange rhythm. It wasn't just sound, it was like a feeling inside their chests, like soft music only the heart could hear. At the end of the path, a great round door stood before them. It had no handle, no lock, just a smooth surface of crystal and light. Hurricane stepped forward and touched it with his palm. The door responded, not with noise, but with silence so complete it seemed to press against their ears. Then, slowly, the door opened inward. Inside was a vast chamber. In the center stood a floating sphere of pure light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Around it floated thousands of small shapes, crystals, symbols, and images that moved in slow circles, as if in a silent dance. "This," Hurricane said, "is the heart of our people." The humans stood in quiet awe. The room was alive, not with machines, but with memory, with thought, with something almost spiritual. Hurricane walked into the center, and the sphere of light grew brighter. Shapes floated toward him, like they remembered him. The air grew warmer. A quiet peace filled the space. "This holds every dream we shared," he said. "Every story, every song. We put our hopes here when the world turned away. And now, after all this time, someone has come to listen." Riva stepped forward. "Can it be restored?" "Yes," Hurricane said. "But it must be done slowly. The heart is old. Gentle hands are needed." The engineers and scientists began setting up equipment around the room, careful not to disturb the floating shapes. They placed sensors and lights, taking readings, watching the strange data flow like soft waves. But above the planet, the probe had seen everything, and it had reported everything. On the Dravari ship, deep in orbit, the captain studied the new data. He stood in silence, looking at the floating symbols, the glowing heart, and the humans working beside the last of the ancient race. "They mean to wake the past," he said softly. "They think it's just history. But history remembers." One of his officers asked, "Do we send a message?" "No," the captain replied. "Not yet. Let them continue. We must understand what they find before they realize what they're holding." Back underground, Hurricane sat near the heart. He looked tired, his energy dimming slightly. Riva noticed and sat beside him. "Are you okay?" He gave a slow nod. "I have not walked this far in many ages. The heart, it remembers me, but I am still only a piece of what we were." Riva looked up at the glowing shapes around them. "You said your people shared thoughts. Does that mean all of you were connected?" "Yes," Erican answered. "Not like machines, more like emotions, memories, feelings. We didn't need to speak. We felt what the other felt." Tolan, listening nearby, asked, "Could you do that again? Share with us?" Erican looked at the humans, quiet for a long moment. Then he held out his hand. "One of you. Only one. The link must be gentle." Riva stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll do it." She placed her hand in Erican's, and the moment their skin touched, her eyes widened. She didn't fall. She didn't scream, but her breath caught in her throat. She was standing in a city of light. Towers of glass and energy rose high into the clouds. People walked without fear. The air was full of music and calm. And then, the vision changed. The sky darkened, the towers cracked, people faded into the mist, and at the center the heart dimmed. She opened her eyes again, blinking. She was still in the chamber. Erican was still holding her hand. "I saw them," she whispered. "I saw everything." Erican let go gently. "That was only a small piece. There is much more." Riva turned to her team. "We're not just rebuilding history. We're helping something beautiful find life again." But far above, something new had begun. The Dravari ship had sent a second probe, this one larger, hidden in the shadow of the moon. It moved slower, more careful, but its purpose was clear. It was not only watching now, it was listening. The humans didn't know. The heart didn't know. But Erican paused suddenly, looking upward with a distant expression. "Something has changed," he said. "Something is listening that does not belong." Riva asked, "Can you feel it?" He nodded. "It's not on the ground. It's far above. But the heart feels it. A presence that is cold, silent, like a shadow watching a light it cannot understand." Tolan said, "Should we be worried?" Erican didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "Not yet, but soon." The chamber grew quiet again, but it wasn't fear that filled the air. It was purpose. The humans had come to help. And now the heart was beginning to respond. The crystals moved a little faster. The lights glowed a little stronger. The past was waking. And with it, something long forgotten might finally be reborn. The quiet hum of the heart filled the chamber, but outside the world had grown restless. The humans worked carefully, piecing together fragments of Arikan's history, while the alien being recovered slowly from the long sleep. But beneath the calm surface, unseen eyes watched every move. Riva stood at the edge of the chamber, looking at the softly glowing sphere that pulsed like a gentle heartbeat. She felt something in the air, an energy she could not explain. It was not danger, but a kind of warning. "We're not alone," she whispered. Erican moved beside her, his gaze steady but full of concern. "The Watchers have returned, not as enemies, but as questions waiting to be answered." Riva's team gathered near the entrance, listening as a low signal began to pulse through their scanners. It was faint, distant, but clear enough to send chills down their spines. Tolan frowned. "It's a call, but not from us." One of the scientists checked the readings again. "It's coming from deep within the planet. The signal is ancient, older than anything we've found." Erican nodded, slowly. "Long before I was placed in sleep, my people sent messages into the dark. These calls were hopes. They asked for help. They begged for understanding." Riva's eyes narrowed. "Then someone else must have heard." "Yes," Erican said, "but they never came. Not until you." The team exchanged looks. What if there were others still waiting, hidden in the shadows of the planet? What if the story was far larger than any of them had imagined? Riva took a deep breath. We have to find them. They moved deeper into the tunnels, guided by the faint pulse of the signal. The walls here were older, worn by time and silence. The air was colder, carrying whispers of forgotten voices. As they advanced, the signal grew stronger. It led them to a massive chamber sealed by crystal doors. The surface shimmered with light, covered in symbols that seemed to move like living things. Erican approached the door. This is the Gate of Echoes, he said softly. It protects the last sanctuary of my people. Riva reached out, and as her fingers touched the crystal, a soft glow spread across the surface. The door opened slowly, revealing a vast cavern filled with gentle light and floating orbs that shimmered like stars. Inside they found hundreds of alien forms, suspended in stasis, glowing softly in the dim light. Each was connected by shimmering threads of energy that pulsed in time with the heart. These are my people, Erican whispered, his voice filled with awe. They have waited, silent and still, hoping for a future. Riva felt the weight of the moment. This was more than a rescue. It was a chance to bring a whole civilization back from the edge of oblivion. The humans began setting up systems to monitor and support the suspended beings. Machines hummed quietly as they adjusted, the environment keeping the delicate balance needed to revive the ancient race. Suddenly the lights flickered. The soft pulsing of the heart quickened and the floating orbs brightened, casting moving shadows across the cavern walls. Arikan looked toward the entrance, concern deepening in his eyes. The Watchers have drawn closer. Outside the planet's atmosphere, the Dravari ship moved silently in orbit. Its captain watched the expanding light from the planet below, calculating, waiting. They awaken the lost, the captain said quietly, but do they understand what will come with the light? Back in the cavern, Riva's team worked tirelessly, careful not to rush. Each connection was delicate. Each pulse was a step closer to awakening. As the first of the beings began to stir, the air filled with soft whispers, memories, hopes, and dreams long forgotten. The threads of energy linking them shimmered brighter, weaving together a tapestry of life and unity. Arikan closed his eyes, feeling the presence of his people returning. We are no longer alone, he said softly. We remember who we were. We will remember who we must be. Riva smiled, her heart swelling with hope. Then let's give them a future. But as the chamber filled with renewed life, a shadow crossed the planet's moon, a silent reminder that some eyes still watched, some questions still waited, and the story was far from over. The chamber was alive with light and soft sounds, the gentle awakening of a people long lost to time. The suspended beings stirred slowly, their forms glowing faintly like stars at dawn. Riva watched carefully, heart pounding with hope and wonder. This was the moment, the turning point between memory and reality. Arikan stood among his people, his eyes bright with emotion. He reached out to one of the beings, and the connection sparked like a quiet flame. The being opened its eyes, and a soft glow spread through the chamber. A breath, a heartbeat, a life returning. The humans worked with reverence, monitoring each stage of revival with careful hands and steady minds. Machines hummed quietly, sending warmth and energy through the ancient vessels. Every pulse was a whisper of life returning, a song of survival echoing across time. Outside, the planet's surface trembled slightly, but it was not fear. It was the breath of a sleeping giant waking. The forests, once silent and barren, began to stir with quiet movement. Soft lights appeared in the distance, flickering like fireflies. The land itself seemed to welcome the return of the lost. Riva moved through the chamber, her eyes wide with awe. How many can be saved? She asked Arikan. He looked at her, a smile touching his lips. All who remain. They are many, but they are fragile. We must be patient. Tolan checked the readings again. We're seeing life signs for more than just the chamber. There are pockets of survivors beneath the surface. The team exchanged hopeful glances. There was still more to discover. The story was bigger than any of them had guessed. Suddenly, the lights flickered again and the chamber grew colder for a moment. The soft pulsing of the heart slowed, then steadied. Arikan's expression darkened, not with fear, but with resolve. The watchers grow impatient. They sense the change. We must protect what we are rebuilding. Riva stepped closer. What can we do? Arikan gestured toward the glowing sphere in the center. The heart holds the memory of our people. It can shield us if we keep it strong, but it needs more than energy. It needs hope. Riva looked around at her team. Then we give it hope. We keep working. We keep believing. The days passed, and the revival continued. The beings awoke one by one, their minds slowly connecting to the network of memory that the heart provided. The tunnels filled with quiet voices, whispers of stories and dreams long forgotten. One of the revived beings stepped forward. She was tall and graceful, her skin shimmering softly like moonlight. Her eyes held centuries of wisdom and sorrow. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice gentle but clear. "We have waited for the moment when light would return. You have given us a second chance." Riva smiled warmly. "We're honored to help." Lyra looked toward Arikan. "Our past is fragile, but our future is bright if we work together." The humans and the revived beings began to share knowledge, learning from each other's experiences. The ancient race taught of harmony and connection, of a world where all life was joined by invisible threads of understanding. Riva listened, fascinated. The stories were simple but powerful, full of hope and unity. This was more than a rescue mission, it was a rebirth. But the calm was not meant to last. Far above, the Dravari ship shifted its position. The captain studied the growing light from the planet, calculating next steps. "They seek to rebuild what was lost," he said quietly. "But the balance of the galaxy is fragile. Will this light bring hope, or will it attract shadows?" Inside the chamber, a sudden pulse from the heart echoed through the tunnels. The glowing sphere brightened sharply, sending waves of energy throughout the sanctuary. Lyra looked up, concern flickering in her eyes. Something has changed. The heart senses a new presence. Not all watchers are silent. Riva felt the air shift. "What does that mean?" Arikan's gaze was steady. "It means the past is waking in more ways than one, and we must be ready for whatever comes next." The team gathered, a mix of humans and revived beings. Together they prepared to face the unknown, united by a shared purpose. The story that had begun with a silent signal was now unfolding into a journey of hope, connection, and discovery. And as the light grew brighter, so did the shadows waiting, beyond the stars. The air in the sanctuary felt heavier, filled with an electric mix of hope and uncertainty. Riva stood near the glowing heart, feeling its gentle pulse echo through her chest. The ancient alien race, once lost and forgotten, was now waking fully. Their minds connected through the light, weaving a new web of life and memory. But beyond the walls of this hidden world, unknown forces stirred. The Dravari captain studied the planet from orbit, eyes sharp and calculating. "The return of the lost cannot be ignored," he said quietly to his crew. "Their revival changes the balance. We must watch carefully." On the surface, the revived beings began to explore their world. They moved gracefully through forests that had long slept under ash and silence. The light of their presence brought life back to barren lands. Soft green shoots pushing through cracked soil, streams sparkling anew. Arikan led his people gently, teaching them how to live again with patience and care. "We must honor the past but build toward the future," he told them. "Together with our new friends we can create a world of hope." Riva felt a surge of pride. This was more than she had dreamed when the silent signal first reached her ship. This was a story of new beginnings, of a chance to heal and grow. But the watchers in the shadows were not done. Deep beneath the planet's surface, old machines hummed to life. Their purpose long forgotten, they now stirred, responding to the energy that pulsed through the heart. The planet itself seemed to breathe with renewed life and hidden power. Lyra approached Riva quietly, her voice filled with concern. The machines are awakening. They are the guardians of our world, but we do not fully understand them. Riva nodded. We need to learn more. If they protect the planet, they could help us. But if they do not understand us, they may see us as a threat. The team worked quickly to establish communication with the ancient machines. Using knowledge shared by the revived beings, they deciphered the language of light and energy that the machines used. Slowly, a dialogue began. The machines revealed they were created to protect the planet and the life it carried. They had waited, silently for centuries, watching over the sleeping race. Now, they sensed change and questioned the new life that stirred. Arakan stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. We have returned not to conquer, but to heal. We seek peace and unity with all who live here. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then the machines responded with a soft pulse of light, a sign of acceptance. Riva exhaled in relief. This is a new beginning, for all of us. But beyond the sanctuary, the Dravari captain made his decision. We will monitor, he said, but we will not interfere yet. This new hope may bring balance, or it may invite chaos. Back on the planet, the revived beings and humans worked side by side. Gardens bloomed where none had grown for ages, and the air was filled with the songs of new life. Riva walked among the trees with Arakan and Lyra. What do you see for the future? She asked. Arakan smiled softly. A future where our histories are not forgotten, where all life can thrive together, Lyra added. Where hope is stronger than fear, and where the light of one guides the path for many. The heart pulsed warmly at their feet, a reminder of all that had been lost and all that could be gained. As stars twinkled above, the planet no longer felt silent or alone. It was alive with stories, memories, and the promise of tomorrow. Riva looked to the sky, knowing this was only the beginning of a journey far greater than any signal. The story of humanity and the lost alien race was now a story of unity, hope, and the endless light that comes when worlds choose to stand together.